Okay, well, thank you, Bill, for joining us on this CEO video, and welcome. I'd like to start off by asking you about water infrastructure, where you've clearly built a very strong position over the last 4 years or so. What was it that you saw as being attractive about that market, and do you think that market will stay attractive?
I suppose it started, Joe, back in 2019 or so, when I was visiting a few water and wastewater treatment works. And the condition of the asset struck me as worse, I suppose, than I'd anticipated and that I remember. So that got me thinking about the fact that perhaps the regulator had kept his thumb on the water companies for too long, with their ability to raise our bills for too long, and that had impacted the condition of the asset, and that it had to be only a matter of time until that changed. And so with that conviction, really, and I did a bit of more work than that, clearly, but with that conviction, I started looking around at how we might increase our presence in the water industry. So we'd been in water for many years, and we had a reasonable collection of frameworks, I suppose I'd call it. And then in 21, the opportunity came to buy NMCN out of administration. And NMCN was a good company in the water sphere. It had a good reputation. And to cut a long story short, we bought NMCN with about 900 people. And through that acquisition, basically covered the rest of the country. So now we worked for virtually every water company in the UK. Obviously, that took a bit of settling in, taking a company out of administration and novating all the contracts and so on. But it's turned out to be a really, really good acquisition. And that was the mainstay of where we sit now in water. Through that acquisition, we also bought Lintott, which was a company that makes motor control centres and chemical dosing plants and things like that. And since then, we've made another series of acquisitions in the water industry, in small companies that make pretty high-tech bits of kit and have higher margins to go with that as well. And so we're looking to continue to grow the big design and construct parts of water and the big frameworks that we have, but also to grow faster the higher margin parts of that business. So the capital maintenance side, through our acquisition of AVRS last year, and then the supply of kit into the water industry at higher margins.
Thank you. And clearly it's a very big market. What are the areas that you are in, and what are the areas that you aren't in and don't plan to be in?
Well, the mainstay is design, build and commission of water and wastewater treatment works and bolt-ons to existing wastewater and water treatment works. And as I said, the supply and installation of pretty high-tech bits of kit. That's where we are now. We want to maintain the design construct bits. We want to grow the maintenance bits faster, and we want to grow the provision of high-tech kit faster as well. And what we've said is we've got the balance sheet, we've got the expertise now to make further bolt-on acquisitions where it makes sense and where it accelerates our progress towards our goals. But that's the mainstay of where we're going to be in water, and that's our focus.
Thank you. And what sort of visibility do you have in the water industry?
Oh, it's fantastic, Joe. So in AMP8, so AMP8 is broadly double the size of AMP7 at £104 billion. And I see that continuing, by the way, into AMP9 and probably 10. So we're looking at 10, 15 years of this into the future, in my view. We've got a fantastic position through the frameworks we've won into AMP8. Some of them are transferred across from AMP7. Sometimes they get rolled over, and sometimes they get renewed. But where we are now, we have a fantastic order book through well beyond 2030. So through AMP8 and well into AMP9.
Fantastic. And in the past, there's sometimes been some challenges around the transition between the AMP cycles. What's your view so far in terms of the transition between AMP7 and AMP8?
It's probably a bit smoother than we anticipated. As you say, traditionally there's been a bit of a dip between the AMPs. What we've seen in our experience anyway of this current transition is AMP7 has finished really strongly. So AMP7 has gone really well at the end. And remember, Joe, that if you are awarded a contract the day before the end of AMP7, that is an AMP7 contract. It still might take 2 years to design and deliver the scheme, but it's still an AMP7 contract. So there's a big overlap between the AMPs. And in AMP8, we've seen a reasonable start. I think some of the water companies are a little bit perhaps diverted to competition issues and taking the regulator, the CMA, for a bit more money. But apart from that, it's been pretty smooth so far.
And you're winning your fair share of that AMP8 work?
Well, the nice thing is, Joe, once you've got the frameworks, you pretty much know what you've got for the next 5-10 years. So it's a great position to be in terms of getting all your ducks in a row in terms of your people and your supply chain and your equipment and so on. And that's what the water companies want. They want us to work with them through their program of work for 5 to 10 years and make sure we deliver it efficiently.
Understood. And is there anything you can say about the margin profile between AMP8 versus AMP7?
Well, I'd say across the board, there's probably slightly higher embedded margins in AMP8 compared to AMP7. The big gains are through productivity and standardization and modularization and designing something once and building it a few times and getting efficiencies through there. That's where the real gains come through.
So how can we be sure that you'll continue to win your fair share of work?
Well, how it works, Joe, is that once you're on a framework, which is for 5 or possibly 10 years, you then get allocated work. There's no further competition after that. So in some water companies, we'll have a geographical patch where everything above ground, for example, in that patch is ours. And if we need to then go and build a water or wastewater treatment works, we get paid to design the scheme. And then we agree the target cost, which will include contingencies for risk and inflation, all those sorts of things. We agree that with the client, and then we go and build whatever it is on a target cost reimbursable basis. But the point is we allocated all the work within that geographical area. There's no further competition after that. So that does allow us to look into the future, work with our clients to establish what assets we're going to be building over the whole 5-year period perhaps, and make sure that we're always working efficiently, which gives them value for money and gives us working efficiencies.
Thank you. And as I understand it, you're doing more specialist services and more maintenance work. What does that mean for growth and margins?
Well, our strategy through to 2030 is to grow the big parts of our business. So that's highways, water and building to about £1.8 billion or thereabouts. And we think we can get those margins up to 3.5%. Then the other facets of the strategy are affordable housing, which perhaps we can come back to, and then the high-tech, higher margin parts of water. So as you say, the capital maintenance side of the business attracts higher margins than the construction side. We bought AVRS 18 months or so ago now, and that is our catalyst for more work in the capital maintenance sphere. So we do capital maintenance work already in a number of our frameworks, and we're going to coagulate those under the AVRS banner to give it a bit of critical mass and to accelerate its standing in the whole water industry. We've got something like 20 capital maintenance frameworks now into AMP8, so that gives us the foundation on which to grow that part of the business.
Thank you. And sticking with water for now, are there any sectors or skills that you would like to add to your existing capability, perhaps through acquisition?
Well, what we've said was that the only place we'll acquire is where we can acquire special higher margin businesses. So there are some opportunities, Joe, to maybe consolidate some sectors within the water industry. We've talked about motor control centres, there's chemical dosing plants, there's things like screens and pen stocks and things like that more on the sewage side of things, where there are opportunities to grow those businesses both organically and possibly through bolt-on acquisition, and then perhaps consolidate the market a touch as well.
Thank you. And how much do you think you have to spend, and what multiples would you expect to pay?
We haven't really put any limits on that, Joe, but what we've said is we're not contemplating any big acquisitions. We're contemplating digestible bolt-on acquisitions. I'm not saying they need to be, the ones we've done so far have been relatively small. I'm not saying they need to be that small. They can be bigger. We've got the balance sheet. We've got the firepower to be able to do it. It's if it makes sense and if it can accelerate our progress towards our 2030 goals.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Bill.
Pleasure.